The fence, this fence here has 4 bolts that line up to this cross piece. Very easy to do. It takes just a few minutes to align it. Fences themselves, by design, and somebody might be able to answer this for me because I don't know. I've been told that the round rails are the best to go with on a fence design because something about hold down is better and allows you to keep the fence straight to the rail. The square design like this here, I was told, is not that great. But then again, Biesmeyer and I think Unifence has that too, right?
Square.
Has the square. I don't know. They might be pulling my leg, but I was told that the round rails are the best. I've had very excellent results with that, and that's a Vega fence for anybody interested. They make excellent aftermarket fence. If you have a Craftsman saw like this, and you're using their what is it, Exacta fence or something? Believe me, it is not accurate. Charlie.
Yeah, the round rail has more of a more grabbing point.
That's what it was.
Rather than the square.
Yes, right. The round rail, as Charlie said, has more surface area for your cam to lock to. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Deflection is really the problem with the fences. It's the deflection. This fence, I was shocked, is very, very good. This fence on this Delta really does not deflect very much when in use. And I can set it anywhere along here and find that it takes accurate measurements. On most of the fences that I've come across, the cheaper fences, you could set your 4-inch, you could set your gauge to 4 inches here, cut perfectly, set it to 17 inches here, and you're off by 1/8 of an inch. You know, I can't figure out why. It might be the photograph of the rule, which is what most people say, but
you put two of them together.
Best investment for a saw is a good aftermarket fence, unless you buy a cabinet saw with a Unifence or a Biesmeyer, one of those. If you notice that when you set your fence in one spot, like I just said, 4 inches, and it cuts fine, you set it somewhere else and it doesn't, don't go crazy. It's never going to work for you. You're going to either have to compensate by knowing, how much cut difference you have, or go out and get another fence. But this fence I really, really like. You can measure from on something like this. Normally, on a bench top, I would always take a wooden rule, folding rule. Don't use a tape measure. Use a wooden rule, and measure from the front tooth to the fence and the back tooth to the fence. Don't just trust one, because you may have that, like I said, the deflection, and it could be a problem. If you do, right? I had this problem. If you do change if you do move the trunnion, say you saw 6 months later, you find out the trunnion moved, and you have to readjust the blade to the miter slot. Go back and check your fence, your measurements, because it could be off by 32nd, 64. Depends on the tolerance you want, but it could make a difference. Also, here's another interesting thing. If you're using a thin curved blade, and you have this set to an 1/8 inch, obviously it's not the same measurement, so you have to accommodate that 1/32nd, I think, is difference. And it's usually easier not to reset your gauge, but just know that you're going to set your fence a different size.
One thing I found out the hard way is when you go to sharpen your blades and put it back on, it also screws it up.
Yeah. When you have your blades sharpened, the grinding process could change your size. I haven't really found that to be true in my case, but I've heard that. Blades. Let's talk about blades for a minute. I'm a connoisseur of blades of sorts. You all probably heard of Forrest. It took me years and years before I tried one because I thought it was hype. Absolutely not hype. Darryl, you have any? Darryl once on the website was, saying, Forrest.
Yes, he did.
I'm mad.
Right.
What? Forest blades you can get I get them at the trade shows because they give you a pretty good discount. And here's the deal with Forrest. If anybody here wants to order a Forrest blade, CMR Marketing, who does the woodworking shows, offered to me to give the club members 15% discount on a Forrest blade. And if we order enough, he'll keep doing that for us. So if we get enough members that want to do Forrest blades, he'll give us 15% discount on it. Mana will be, right? That's Ridge Carbide, yeah. Ridge Carbide, I haven't tried their blades, I have to say, so I guess I can't say I'm a connoisseur. But from what I understand, they're on par with the Forrest. I just think that Forrest will give you a little more of a polished edge when you make a cut. Sometimes that's very important for me. It minimizes the amount of time to sand an edge or having to rejoint an edge. If you get a Forrest blade, only let Forrest do it. I wouldn't trust my blade to anybody else. And these blade guys.
I asked you that the other week. I just got it back the other day.
Beautiful job. And they'll do a test cut for you, a couple of dollars more, but you're guaranteed to get a good thing.
And they'll sharpen any blade. Doesn't have to be a Forrest. Doesn't have to be a Forrest blade.
$20. And if you buy a blade, they give you three $5 off coupons. If you chip a tooth, they repair it for about $7. Freud makes an excellent blade too. The Teflon coated. A lot of people ask, is there a big difference?
Yes.
Honestly, I have not found a big difference.
But you also don't get the buildup on the blade.
Right. Yeah. Actually, that's not 100% true because
you get some.
Yeah. This blade is pretty clean, but it wasn't a while ago. And through experience, if you have a Teflon blade, be very careful how you clean it. Be very careful. When I clean blades, I only use toothbrush. And there's a couple different products you can use. The most popular for me is Simple Green. It really works good. Guys will use oven cleaner, which is fine. It's caustic. This is pretty friendly. It doesn't bother my hands or my nose or anything like that. But if you're cleaning a Teflon blade, experience. Do not allow it to sit overnight in Simple Green. The next morning you can take your fingernail and the Teflon just sheds right off. And don't use a brass brush to clean it either. Use only a toothbrush or something very soft because it will take the Teflon right off. It will. You can see the anti-kickback part of the blade are these little hooks that come off the opposite direction of the blade. They actually act as a splitter. And that is the anti-kickback design of most of these blades. Forrest doesn't have an anti-kickback that I know of. Mana does. Freud does. DeWalt, a lot of these other manufacturers, they do. I think it does make a difference to have an anti-kickback design on it. But if you are using a Forrest blade, again, there's really no need for it because they cut so nicely. They really do. That's probably why they haven't incorporated that into their design. Yes, I have two thin curves here. As far as blade types, obviously the smaller the tooth, the smaller the tooth count on a blade, the better it would be for riveting. Okay. It'll bite the wood faster. You're not going to get a clean, polished cut if you use a 20 or 24 tooth rip blade. But that's the best blade to use for ripping operation. Don't use anything more than 24 tooth if you're going to rip hardwood. Pine, you can do anything. 40 tooth, 60, 80 probably. But a Mana, to me, makes the best rip blade that I've come across. I just bought Forrest's 30 tooth thin curve rip blade, and I have yet to try it. But I was sold on it in demonstration. And I only got that because my Mana needs sharpening and I needed the blade. I probably would have gotten another Mana. He told me that this is going to leave a fairly, twice as clean as an Mana on the edge. But it's still not going to be as polished as a 40-tooth combination blade, which is pretty much your standard all-purpose blade. 42. This is 1/8 inch. This is thin curve. There's no other difference, just the thickness of the steel. But this blade will generally do very good in ripping and cross-cutting. So if you want a good all-purpose combination blade, 42, Delta makes a 36 tooth. You know, somewhere around that number is great.
Mike, if you just said use a 24 tooth blade only for ripping, don't go higher than that. And that's, I imagine when you're saying the cut's polished, it would mostly be in ripping operations. Worry about polish.
Right.
So when do you use the 40 tooth cut for ripping?
When you go, I should clarify that. What I usually do is use the 20 to 24 tooth for rough ripping. Okay, so if I'm ripping the rough dimension, I'll rip it first with this, and you can rip with a 42. Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't do 700 board foot of this stuff with the forest. It didn't even hold up after 50. Okay, the forest would not do it. It started burning. I had to go send sharp. Put the Amana in the 22, and boy, did that rip great. That ripped really good. But my clarification is, if you're ripping plywood, soft woods, then the 42 will do just fine. But if you're ripping hardwoods, red oak, or anything harder than that, you could rip cherry with a 42 too, and get decent results. But any hardwoods, you want to go with 20 or 24 tooth. Then you got your cross-cutting blades, which are usually 60 to 80 feet. This one here is, I think, these are both 80s. They both look the same. This is another Freud. And Freud makes excellent, it might be locked. Freud makes excellent cross-cutting blades, high tooth count blades. They are, I have two here. I have one that's called alternate bevel. One tooth goes this way, one tooth goes that way, and that's it. There's no straight on this. There's one that does all three, I think. It's flat, alternate. This one here is ATB, triple chip grind, where the blade is flat on the top, but each side of the blade is beveled. Every other tooth. It's flat on one and alternate, and beveled on each side. You can look at it later and see. They're basically this. You want to use a alternate triple chip grind blade for melamine and plywoods that may splinter in cross-cutting operations. That'll give you the best cut. And the alternate bevel will work fine for just about any cross-cutting operation, but you will get splinter, especially on the edge.
What about the MDF?
MDF is really okay with almost any blade. It's just a lot of dust. It's a lot of dust. Any questions on blades?
Yeah. If you whipped with the 24 tooth,
Yeah.
could you clean it up afterwards, just take a 16th off, or would the blade...
The blade will still leave as much mark as if you ripped it the first time.
No, I mean put a forest blade on
Yeah,
it.
that's another thing I might do. If I had a lot of boards to run, and I didn't want to go to the joiner with these boards, and I rough ripped them, if I ripped, say, 2-inch wide pieces from 8-inch wide boards, a whole bunch of them, and I didn't want to go to the joiner with all of them, I'll re-rip them through with the 42 forest, taking a 16th or 32nd off polished edge. Beautiful. So it saves you that time.
Mike, what would you consider a good blade for a wood that MDF that you veneer?
Veneer, I would definitely. Well, if you're cross-cutting, then get the triple chip grind. Here's an interesting story, though. I went out and spent $100 on that blade, on that triple chip grind blade for the veneer, cross-cutting veneer, and it worked okay. But one day
I'm saying raw veneer, not restored.
raw. You mean 16th-inch veneer?
1/32.
That's tough. That's tough. A knife is your best bet.
I mean, like a panel, veneer panel, a panel of
It's already
plywood
glued
panel. No, I mean, I would veneer it myself on MDF. What would be a good blade?
Okay, so if you glue the veneer to the MDF, and then you want to cut it.
Right.
Then use either triple chip grind or a forest would work great. I've never seen a forest splinter out glued up veneer.
How many teeth?
40 tooth is fine, but as high as you can go. But I can tell you, if you get a Daum set, don't buy the model. Somebody, who was that? Yeah, he had, they're just not worth it. You might as well spend, if you're going to make a lot of dado cuts, you might as well spend $100 or so and get a good dado set. This is a Freud. This is the Super Dado. It boasts flat bottoms, and it probably does. Not on this saw. If you have a contractor saw, most likely you'll never get flat bottoms, whether you buy Freud or you buy Forest, Ridge, doesn't matter. The arbor threads are too long. Too long, I guess. And they will allow your blade to wobble, to sit off each other a little bit, based on the threads, especially threads that are worn, constant on and off. So that is one bad point about contractor saws, and probably bench saws too, is that your arbor threads are usually going to be where you mount your dado set, and you will never get flat. That brings us to the stabilizer. This is the question: whether to use a stabilizer or not. If you have the money, buy one. This has got to get flat with a chip. But these will keep your blade straighter when used. It's always set to the outside of the blade. So you'll mount your blade first. Let's see. I guess I'll try out this Forest blade and put this on here.
There's only one? There's not one on either side of the blade?
No. It's only on one side, on the outside of the blade.
So on the inside, you screw up the bore.
Yeah.
Gee, how did I find that?
Nothing.